think that we're gonna do a horror movie and book recommendation for this episode since I believe this will be out closer to Halloween time. So, I think we have some. I mean, I have a lot because I had a hard time picking. So I have like I have like nine. I have like three different categories and three for each. So, yeah.
Ooh.
But you guys can go first if you want.
I feel like it's a lot of pressure to go first. Well, I have movies too. Should we do movies, books, movies?
Sure.
Like to smush it?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do um I can go first then. I don't know why I'm like nervous. So I picked top 3, but then I just have like some honorable mentions because I couldn't really like, and these I also like don't think they're like my favorites. They're just like the ones that came to mind. I also have a somewhat of a theme, which is just they have really good songs in them or related to them. Because I have a
Ooh.
Halloween playlist I listen to every year, and I'll like slowly add more songs to it. But these all have
Nice.
like songs in them or related to them. So I guess the first one I'll go with is the Day of the Dead, which is 1985. I guess we've also seen Night of the Living Dead, which was like the original from like I think the 50s, but that one's kind of bad. Like it's like super slow, but it's like kind of one of the OG like zombie movies.
Yeah.
Um, but like Day of the Dead, it's got both like me and Tina's one of our favorite. Actually, like one of the bands that we like connected with when we were like young and we first met was the Gorillas.
Mhm.
And the
Nice.
Gorillas have a song M1A1 from I think it was their first album where they sample like some of the audio from the movie. I think it's the beginning of the movie where the guy's just walking around the town yelling like hello, is anybody there? Hello, and but it's very spooky and they like that's the beginning of the song and then they like ramp it up. It's very cool. Um
Ooh.
but that's like Day of the Dead's also a zombie one, but it's just a little more it's less boring than Night of the Living Dead. It's more 80s and actiony. And I think there's a zombie, if I'm remembering it right, there's like this main character zombie who's cool. But but honestly, it's been a minute. But um, yeah. And then one of my all-time favorite, probably one of my top 5 favorite movies is Silence of the Lambs.
Mhm.
A good one.
That
So
is a
I
good
would
one.
just recommend anyone. That's I feel like it's not even that scary either. I guess not. Dead the Dead isn't either because like I feel like any movie that's old is like not scary.
Yeah.
Like how The Shining, like when my mom was like, "Oh, that one was scary," and I was like, "No, it's not." There's like one
Mhm.
scary scene. But Silence of the Lambs has iconic scene where Buffalo Bill is like they're just kind of focusing on him and he's like dressing himself up and like looking in the mirror
Mhm.
and they're playing
Yeah.
Goodbye Horses by Lazarus, I think it is. And I just think it's such a fun song. It doesn't really I feel like there's nothing spooky about it, but because of the movie, it gives you like an eerie vibe. It's very chill.
Yeah.
And
It was like a good pairing for that scene for sure.
yeah. And also one of my favorite things about that scene is if you watch it on TV, they like dub it because he says, "Would you fuck me? I would fuck me. I'd fuck me hard." And on TV when they dubbed it, they said, "Would you marry me? I'd marry me. I'd marry me hard." They like leave the
TV
hard
dubs
in.
are so doofy.
It makes me laugh so much.
Kids Bop, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I'd marry me hard. Okay, then my last one was Donnie Darko, which isn't that
Ooh, yeah.
scary, but it's a very Halloweeny vibe.
Yeah. Eerie.
And they have
I've
a
still
lot
never
of
seen
good.
it.
It's a good one. You'll probably be like, "What the fuck?" Because I feel like everyone, when you watch it the first time, you're like, "What just happened?" And then there's like a website I found the first time I watched it, which explains everything, and you're like, "Sure, that was the same movie that I watched." But it's very fun. And there's a lot of good songs. Like they do a lot of. I think they have like 2 or 3 Tears for Fears songs, which is weird because it's. And I think Echo and the Bunnymen is also 80s, but the one I really like is called "The Killing Moon" by Echo and the Bunnymen. Oh my god. And that one's just a good spooky song. And then my honorable mentions were Tenebrae, which isn't that good. I feel like it's like an Italian movie. I think it's from the 80s, But the song, I think it's the main theme song, is so good and so spooky, and it's called Tenebrae.
Hmm.
And it's just like a perfect Halloween. It's a little cheesy, perfect Halloween song. And then House on Haunted Hill, which is a Vincent Price, which my dad like. I think my parents. Do you guys parents like ever tell you about old movies or old actors, and you're like, sure,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So like that's Vincent Price is one of those guys. Like he was like an old movie actor who did like spooky movies, I think. But he's in that one, and it's like a classic. It's kind of like Clue, you know, where they're running around the
Mm-hmm.
house and they're like, "What's the mystery?" But that one's kind of old. And then for one recent one, because I realized all my favorite ones are old, was It Follows. Because I haven't seen it in such a
Hmm.
long time, but I just remember like really, really liking it when I watched it. And that's more like newer if you like newer stuff. But that's all. I'll stop rambling.
No,
I
that's a
feel
good list.
I feel like Clue should also be an honorable mention. I know it doesn't fit into the music theme, but that's such a fun, like a goofy movie.
It is so fun.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there are like things, there are like movies and shows and books that people are like, it's not like, I don't know, it has nothing to do with Halloween. There's no actual like scary elements to it, but they like watching them or reading them around this time of year just because I don't know, it resonates with them and it gets it's like fun to consume again at this time of year. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like horror or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I had been watch finally last year. And I know this is a fairly well-known one, so I think a lot of people do this. But Over the Garden Wall is just like such a good Halloween rewatch. It's so fun and it's got some spooky moments. Like it is pretty eerie. Uh, but it's just, it's a cartoon. It's fun. It's easy to get through.
And those have great songs.
It does. I love The Highwayman.
I was thinking of what's the, is it Potatoes and Molasses?
Yeah.
Oh, and that like, it's just a jingle.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
The
I haven't seen
Highwayman.
this in a long time now that you mention it. Now I'm like looking it up and like remembering. I gotta watch that again.
Over the Garden Wall or something
Yeah.
else.
Over the
It's
Garden
good.
Wall. I completely forgot about it. So when you
Yeah.
said that, I was like, whoa.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I've also been in the mood. Did you guys ever watch Gravity Falls the whole way through?
I don't think I've seen a single episode, but I know that was like a big one.
It's
Yeah,
a
I've never
really
seen
good
it.
one. I mean, a lot of people didn't. I feel like a lot of people got into it like separately, like they'd go through and binge the whole thing. But I was a fan while it was coming out, and there was like a huge gap between, I think, season one and season two. But then also there was a big break in the middle of season two, like years, like so much time passed. Uh, but it's a good solid show. It's only 2 seasons. It wraps up like very good. Highly recommend it. And I've been in the mood. I feel like it'd be a good Halloween rewatch.
Hmm.
Nice.
I should check it out.
Yeah. I didn't have those on my list, but you made me think about them.
Those are good.
I have seen Night of the Living Dead though. I remember thinking it was so goofy because like you said, your parents being like, "This is so scary. We have to watch this." And then there's just like 5-minute chase scenes of just the zombies
So
very
slow.
slowly moving across the screen and then like the humans are sprinting. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's like a charm to those like old doofier like movies.
Yes, I have just some books. I didn't end up having enough time to go and add anything more to my list, but uh when we were talking about this originally, I didn't know that I could come up with a list of movies because most of my horror movie recommendations come from you, Melody. So this was my compromise. I do read a fair amount of horror novels. So the first one I have is called Your Shadow Half Remains. It's by Sunny Moraine, which is kind of a funny name. And it's sort of a short story. It's like only 150 pages or so. I don't know if I have it out here. But it is about the idea is that there is a disease that came out post COVID. There's a disease, except it's spread through eye contact, and it makes
Ooh.
you. It's kind of like what is it? Is it Bird Box?
Mm.
Where you like can't look at you can't look because you might see the creatures. In this case,
Hmm.
the disease is passed through eye contact, so everyone like totally isolates. If you have to interact with people, like you blindfold yourself. Um, And it's about this main character. It's this girl who's living by herself, and as far as she knows, like her neighbors are miles and miles away, and so she's not expecting to encounter anybody, but basically some guy moves in like down the road, and she starts running into him a bunch, and she like starts hearing and seeing things, and it's basically this like short story about whether or not she's accidentally infected herself and she doesn't know, or is she just losing her mind, or are these things really happening? And it's this like really creepy short story about just like not being able to trust any of what's going on around you. And it was done really well. I thought it was a really good book.
That
Sounds
sounds
awesome.
interesting.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. And the cover is pretty creepy too. It's like a weird distorted like bird and a hand covering the face and an eye. That's what caught my eye when I saw it in the store originally. I tried to also find books that were like kind of different categories of horror too. So that one's sort of the like eerie horror. There's no monsters or anything like that, but it's very atmospheric, intense. The second one is actually just monsters. It's called Into the Drowning Deep. It's by Mira Grant. Um, it's about basically evil mermaids. Um, it is a, if I remember correctly, it's based on the idea of found footage. Like this girl or this teen goes out on a boat and they have found footage that everyone like doesn't believe, but basically like this whole boat got wiped out. Everybody on it died, and there's like a little bit of footage that's looks like a mermaid that's killing somebody. So one of the people who died originally, their sister, gets recruited onto the ship to then go on a second expedition and like recreate it. So they get a camera crew, they've got scientists, they've got a bunch of people with the purpose of like going out to either prove or disprove what happened, but also get more footage and like make a documentary out of this setting. And spoilers, there's actually evil mermaids, and they immediately start trying to kill people. It's really good. Like I remember the first half being super strong. Like it's really creepy. There's a lot of build up. Like people are getting like sniped one by one around the boat.
Oh wow.
It's like a cruise ship. It's not like a small boat. So like it's also not one of those dumb ones where it's like, how did you not hear
Right.
someone getting yanked off the back of the boat? It's like there's like stories to this ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember being really fun and I don't know, like actually kind of creepy, intense, but also goofy because monsters.
Mm-hmm.
The third one I have is called The Night Ship. It's by Jess Kidd, and this one is actually, I would say it's probably of the first three the least scary, but it's based on a true story, which is very unsettling. It is about it goes back and forth between two perspectives, but one of them is not like meant to be a part of the like the tenseness. But the story is this ship that I don't remember the progression exactly, but eventually they get beached and everyone disembarks. And it's sort of like a Lord of the Flies situation where some people take control and some people are being taken advantage of. And eventually just like results in this one group of people on the ship just like slowly killing all of the other people that they've been stranded with because there's not enough resources and they're fighting over all of these things. Which on its own, like it was a decent book and I enjoyed it, but I got to the end and then it was like, and this is based on the true accounts of this specific ship and this all happened and like, oh, that's horrible. All of this is awful. All of a sudden it went from like kind of bleak to like, oh fuck.
Oh wow.
But yeah, very good. And it has some like really high tension too because the main character's a kid. So like you're seeing this from this perspective of like a literal child trying to understand the thing that's going on around them. But yeah, that's a pretty good one.
That's
And then
spooky.
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I included like my ratings of the books and then also the like average book rating as well. And that one I gave a 4 out of 5, but the average rating for it is like a 3.7, which is fairly standard for Goodreads. And then the last one that I have, and this one is probably the least scary, but it's the longest book, and kind of just the most out there, but I feel like some people would really like it. It's called Thistlefoot. It's by Jenna Rose Nethercott. It's like 450 pages, and it really, really gave me the same vibe as like American Gods. If you guys, I don't know if you ever read it or I guess watched the TV series they turned it into.
Mm.
Uh, the it's a little goofy. The premise is that there's two siblings. I think their grandmother passes away, and she wills them her house. But her house is, I don't know if you guys know the story of Baba Yaga,
Oh, is it
but
Chicken House?
it's a chicken house.
Oh
It's a house with
shit.
chicken legs, and it can move.
Oh.
Uh,
Okay, that's cool.
and they come from this like family of like circus people, like puppeteers. And
Hmm.
so these two siblings who like there's a lot of drama between them. There's things that are going on in the background as well. But basically they decide that like as a hurrah for their grandma, they're gonna go on this like cross country trip in the house, but they're gonna put on like puppet shows in all of the houses. But they all like both the characters kind of have like low key magical powers. Like they're not like over the top, but it's like the one guy makes puppets, and when he makes puppets, they're like the best puppets you've ever seen. So his shows are like really, really good. Um, and then in this whole time that they're doing this, they're being chased by this guy that wants to have like there's like shenanigans going on. Um, but it's really good. It was a really good. I think it was like maybe I don't know if it was her debut novel, but it was like one of her first. Really good, a lot of fun, but just like kind of goofy, but like all the elements for remind me of fall at least. Um, but yeah, those are the four that I have actually picked out. I'm sure I could come up with more if you guys had like a genre that you liked, but those are the four that were like I think my top recommendations.
Well, I think those are all really cool. I pulled them up because they all sounded cool, and I'm gonna like put them on a list so I can read them at some point.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I own all four of them still. So if you can't find them either, I'm always happy to lend books.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, I because they, especially the last one when you were talking about Thistlefoot, I was like, this sounds like a really fun book. I mean, they all sounded
Yeah.
fun, but this one especially was like that's what's like stood out to me when you were talking about like basically they had Baba Yaga house. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
that's so
love the
cool.
scenes with the house. It's like a little bit sentient too, so you get moments.
Yeah,
I think there's like perspectives from the house periodically. I
very
like it a lot.
cool.
Yeah. It was a
Awesome.
lot of fun.
All right, well, I'll go through my massive list. So,
Let's go.
By massive, I mean nine, but it's a lot though. It's funny that Riley ended off on It Follows because It Follows is on my list, and I started rewatching some of these because I was like really thinking about. Sorry, I was really thinking about like what movies I would recommend to people, and around the Halloween time, or just like horror movies in general. But I kind of split them into three sections. So one of them is like more, maybe more like more notable titles. People have more likely have heard about them, bigger titles. So It Follows, Midsummer, and Barbarian. I know I've talked about Barbarian a ton of before on the podcast, but um, just It Follows, I think, is just so fun because for those who don't know what It Follows is about, it's pretty much like it kind of works like an STD. So like people will sleep with each other and then just give the whatever it is to someone else. And basically it will just follow them around until it kills them. And then once it kills them, it'll just go down the line of whoever they slept with prior to that. So I just feel like it's really creepy and eerie, and the way that they portray the thing that follows is just like they don't even have um like they don't even really know what it is. Like no one really knows what it is. And it's cool, like in the movie, they're just like sometimes it portrays people that you know, people you don't know. And I just feel like that's so terrifying because it's like it could be anyone, and it could just be someone walking in your direction. And there's like scenes in the movie where it's like really creepy to me because the people who it's after currently are just like, can you see this person? Because they're the only people that it can affect. And then I think the people that down the line that it's affected who haven't gotten killed by it can still see it. So it's just like it blends in, and it's just the fact that it could be literally anyone at any point in time is really scary to me. Um, and then Midsummer because the cults, like cults. I I just I just think I know that that was like one of the first topics we talked about in the podcast, but realistically, it's like I just see I always see these like cult documentaries and um just like stories about people who were in cults or whatever, and it's not like people are dumb or anything. Like this just they always tend to come off the cults and cultists always tend to come off as very personable, relatable, approachable people. And that's pretty much like what's happening here too. Also, like, yeah, they're traveling here because they knew someone who was from it. So it's also like they have these people who go out there and test their feelers and bring people in because they become trustworthy in these new groups of people. So it's just like it's terrifying because like well, I don't know, maybe not to this extent, but it's just I feel like just representative of like really how cults can kind of work in real life. And then you don't even really know it until you're there and then shit's happening and then you're just like, "Oh god, what the fuck?" But I know that the director says it's like, "Oh, it's a breakup movie." And I'm like, "Okay, man." Yeah, I think there was an interview where Ari Aster was just like, "Yeah, this is a breakup movie." And everyone's like, "Okay." But me, I'm just like I think that it's for me, the central thing is like, oh, this is a cult. This is how cults work. Not exactly like this, but like the gist of it. And Barbarian not only be Barbarian scares me, but it's just in so many different ways because it's like also something very relatable to today's world. Airbnbs, rentable properties, things like that. It's very popular, not necessarily like people go and get a hotel room nowadays. um, Sorry to bring this up when we're about to go to an Airbnb this weekend, but
It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
it'll be fine. But I think that one, the marketing for this movie was fantastic, and I feel like it wasn't even that crazy. It was just like this strange trailer of, hey, there's Bill Skarsgård. He seems kind of sus. That's it. That's the trailer. And
Mhm.
then you get into it and it's just like Bill Skarsgård is sus and you totally think it's him the whole time and then it takes that like hard sharp right turn and you're like where the fuck are we? But I love it. It's jarring, it's scary and um yeah, I just it's definitely people's worst nightmares because it's like I didn't really think about it until that movie, but it's like when you do go and rent Airbnbs and stuff like that, you are in a stranger's home. So it's like all of that is like very realistic in the sense of like the horror is definitely in I'm paying to stay in someone's home. I don't know. They could have some weird crawl space. They could be chilling in there. Who knows? They could be watching me. I have no idea. I'm just going off of trust and reviews most likely. But yeah. So those are like my bigger titles. Some smaller ones. These are ones that I've primarily found on streaming services, and I don't know if they've ever been in theaters, but if they have, then I'm maybe it was like for very limited releases. But there is a movie called The Platform. um, is a sequel that was just released recently. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna check it out. But the platform is pretty much about this guy who signs up for this. I think he thinks it's an experiment. I haven't seen this one in a while, but I do just remember liking it a lot. And so he signs up for like this experiment thing, and then some other people kind of come in through different means, but it's kind of like he doesn't really know anything about it. And what happens is that this platform goes through all these different levels. I think it's like 100 levels. And these people wake up on these different levels and they pretty much just trying to survive. This platform comes down from the top to the bottom every day with food. And so it's like if you're at the very bottom, you're probably fucked and you're probably going to die because people at the top are probably going to be eating as much as possible. So by the time it reaches you, if you're like the 90th floor or something, odds are you probably won't get as much food. So he's just kind of waking up and seeing like, oh, this is the situation I'm in. And you're only allowed to like bring one thing with you. So it's like he brought like a book with him, and then other people could have brought weapons with them, whatever. And also the other thing is too, these other people that are in there might not be very reputable people. And at the same time, it's like people are hungry. So what are people going to do when they're hungry? All kinds of stuff to survive and get more food. So that's pretty much what the premise is. I highly recommend it because I think it's like, it's got some social commentary in there, but also it's just really a really scary situation. So, um, especially because they move you too throughout the movie. So like if you survive a certain amount of time, they'll like knock you out, put you to sleep, and then they'll move you to a different floor. So you could be like on floor 2 for like maybe a month. After that, they'll knock you out. You could be on floor 90. So it's like, you know, they're just kind of fucking with people there.
Yeah.
My next one is called Saint Maud. It's about this nun who um she goes and works with a woman. I think she needs this one, same thing. I haven't really seen it in a while, but I remember liking it a lot. But the cinematography was great, but it was just pure eeriness. There's a lot of ambient sounds, music, things, just in general, the lighting, the way they shot it, I think just adds to the whole like horror of it. And so she's just got a lot of faith. And sometimes that faith is just kind of, she's like following it blindly, and she just is really concerned about being devout to her faith and doing what she believes is right. Um, and I don't want to say too much about it. It's pretty much, I'll just leave it at that. But I think that if you give it a shot, you'll probably see what I'm talking about in terms of like the eeriness. But yeah, I don't want to say much more than that. Saint Maud's pretty good. And then there's Creep. It is a found footage film,
Ooh.
and it's about this guy who takes this job to film this guy who said, I think he posted on Craigslist or something, but he's like, "Oh, I have a terminal illness. I'd like to document the last few weeks or months in my life. Basically, if you have a camera and you'd, like to spend some time with me and help me document this, come on over and then I can pay you for it." And that's it. I don't want to say more because it's just gonna be too much, but too much to reveal if I say anything else. But yeah, uh, and it's creepy. So as the title is says, creep. So then my last category here is fun movies, fun like horror type movies or Halloween festive movies to watch with friends. There's Cabin in the Woods, and they're all kind of like the same in terms of like I think they're all like very satirical. They make fun of like horror movies in general and tropes. Cabin in the Woods, um, I think that one makes a lot of fun of a lot of just horror movie tropes in general. So it's pretty much about this group of friends who go to a cabin in the woods, and then they're just like finding out that it's pretty much just like it's controlled by this group of people who um have to make sacrifices every year to these gods, these like sentient gods who will like destroy the planet if they don't make their sacrifices. And it's like basically that's what horror movies are. So I just think it's so funny because it's always they make these dumb throughout it. You'll like find that they'll like the reasoning for things like, oh, if it's a group of people, why do they always split up? It's like, oh, because they release this like gas, this like nerve gas thing that'll like kind of influence their decisions and be like, we should split up. And people who aren't affected by the gas are like, the fuck, why should we split up right now? It's clearly dangerous. But it's like kind of get in there to kind of explain like, well, explain how like why these decisions, these really silly decisions are made in horror movies. So I think it's really fun.
I don't
Um,
I don't think I realized that when I saw it. I just remember
yeah.
like getting to the end and being like, what the fuck? But now that you say that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good one. Then we have Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
That's a
This
fun
one was a
one.
gem, man. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what to expect. And I did watch it with a group of friends back in the day. And we were like so surprised. And it was such a fun time just watching it. And like, I don't know, like I used to, the group of friends I used to watch a bunch of movies with, we would like pick people. And like the person that ended up getting like the guy that would throw the hatchets, and like he was like he found out he was part hillbilly and he was like super mad about it because he like hates hillbillies or something like that. They were just like, "Oh man, I'm the hatchet dude." But I loved it. I like how that one's more geared towards like making fun of like slasher movie tropes and stuff. But in the same vein of like, oh, there's a group of friends and they all get kind of picked off, but they all just do stupid shit. Um, and how it's always just it's like Tucker and Dale are just two brothers living in the woods. Just leave them the fuck alone. But these college kids start killing themselves all over their property. And I just feel
Themselves
so
all
bad
over.
for them. But yeah, it's just like if they film it from a different perspective and they kind of like change things around, ooh, that's wrong turn or something, like or that's this other scary movie. But it's just these two guys just live in the woods. That's all. And then my last one, is Scream. I think the first Scream. I think
Hmm.
the second one is okay. Everything after that is garbage. I I am not me
True.
personally, I am not I think on my like I love horror movies, but I think my subgenre for horror movies that I like the least are slashers. Like I think well, besides maybe like the originals of each of them, like the original Halloween, the original Friday the 13th, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I think those are great, but I think like a lot, like they make like 10 or 13 more and they're just garbage and they just don't know what the hell they're doing. And or I've never seen Chucky, but I think that's considered slasher too, but I don't I I remember seeing like I don't know which Chucky movie it was, but I was probably like 12 or 13, and I saw there was a scene from whatever Chucky movie was on TV, and this woman was just watching him crawl up her leg. And like, yeah, I get it. He's supposed to have the strength of like a whole ass man, but I feel like I would not be just I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's supposed to be a slasher and it's supposed to be doofy and he's a doll and stuff, but like I don't know. I didn't get it. I was just like, why just wiggle your leg, run away, push him off. There's tons of things you could do. He's a doll. But but I loved the first Scream. I think it was fun. I think it was great. And the fact that I think it was like the first of its kind to really do it is like start to make fun of it, its own genre and stuff. And but I think it was still pretty spooky at points too. And it's like, oh my gosh, wow, there are two killers, and it's just I feel like it was just like, whoa, holy shit, mind blowing. There's it can't just be one killer. There's two. Crazy. But yeah, those are my 9 movies in 3 categories.
Nice. I haven't
Yeah,
watched Scream either. I
it's
need to
really
add a
good.
couple of those to my list.
That I was
Yeah.
almost thinking about adding that too. I feel like Scream is one of the best. And it's like newer too. I feel like out of all of those classic horror movies, it's like one of the newest, so maybe it has that on it, but it is a really
Mhm.
good one.
Yeah. They just keep trying to make more of those, and I just wish they wouldn't. Because I saw snippets of, like, the last Scream. I think they're on their 5th one now, and they're just, sucks." Like, it just looks like garbage.
Yeah. I feel like you also just can't, I don't know. Matthew Lillard is just so good. I don't know how
Mhm.
you could really
Yeah.
Replace.
recreate that organically.
True.
One I was thinking of, like for classic ones, I almost mentioned was the Hellraisers, which I haven't watched more than the first two, but the second one was good too. Like that was one where like both one and two I feel like were good movies. They're very 80s, um, which I don't know. I feel like some people just wouldn't be that into it, but I like some of the old 80s horror movies because they have those like practical, gory props, and those are always kind of interesting to see, even if
Mhm.
it's not like super good story wise. But I feel like Hellraiser's got like a good spooky vibe to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take old practical effects and stuff over like well, so Tony and I have been watching Supernatural, and we just because he wants to see it, and I've never gotten past like the 6th season because I think that was when it started going downhill for me. But he really likes like the whole like lore and stuff and like the stuff that they base the episodes off of, like the different monsters and cryptids and stuff that show up. And I just think it's so doofy when they have the dumb effects that they put in there, like the really bad CGI. Like I'm talking about like he keeps telling me about I've never seen Buffy, but he says like Buffy has some really shitty effects in it. So I don't know if you guys have seen that. Um
No. Not
The
really.
But
diseases.
he said, "Ew, this is not as bad as Buffy." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Supernatural CGI effects are bad." And I'll see it and I'm just like, "Ew." And I know it was like 20 years ago when they started, but just like gross. And I love like the practical effects because I think it's fun. Like I didn't see the whole movie, but I'm thinking of an American Werewolf in London, I think it was.
Mm.
They like made all the practical effects for the transformation into a werewolf, and I think that's like great. And like the thing too, like they did
Yep.
all practical
Yeah,
effects for that, and that looks
the
great.
thing is very good. Like in terms of like 80s practical effects, I feel like the thing has a ton of that. I don't they were like so
Yeah.
in I feel like it was like the 90s and early 2000s when bad CGI
Mm.
infiltrated everything because it was like cheaper, but they still weren't good at it. And then
Yeah.
it was like, ooh, bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I was thinking about this when you were talking about slasher movies. How much did uh Final Destination play a role in your guys's like
Ooh.
if you ever get behind a truck that's carrying logs or like walk under anything that's like being hung up by a crane, I like every single time I think of Final Destination.
To this day, it still
Every
affects me to
time.
this day. Oh my gosh. It I reference it too. Like if I am ever like literally it's those kinds of trucks carrying like lumber or something like, oh God, I'm like, I gotta merge. I
Yeah.
can't be behind this fucking truck.
I don't think I've
The
seen any of those, but I know that they were big, and that was like,
yeah.
what did they just have a bunch of deaths with random things like that? Like, what was the point? What?
The plot was just that like at the beginning of the movie, and I think it's the original maybe, they're all supposed to be on a flight and the main character has like this premonition that it's going to crash, and almost everybody else still gets on the plane except for like her and five other people. And then throughout the movie, death is chasing those her and that crew of people. So like one dies and then a second one dies and then like someone catches on that they're being killed
Mm.
mysteriously. But they're just like the most ridiculous. It's so goofy. Like you'll see
Mhm.
them like they'll be taking a shower and then it'll like pan away and like an outlet is like wiggling itself free from the wall and then like a hairdryer is about to fall in the bath. Like all of these things just start happening around them. It's like clearly something is trying to kill them, but it's just so doofy.
But like
And it's like
all
that.
with accidents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, accidents.
That's
I we say that because it's like the scene that Hannah was just talking about. I think that scene is like it's like the hairdryer moves on its own
Yeah.
into the it is so stupid looking, but it's just like I don't know, it definitely it scared the shit out of people. They're just like, "Oh man." And they like definitely heated I mean, not that I feel like there are many people that, like were blow drying their hair, but they do have those labels. So, like, they must have had to put it on there because people are doing that shit, like, you just now I'm kind of branching off, but I'm just thinking about, like, labels that are just, like, obviously, like, on bleach, like, "Do not drink," but it's like, yeah, well, there were people that were drinking it not too long ago to try to get rid of COVID, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so goofy. It always cracked me up because I don't know why. I feel like the second one was always on rerun, and it's the second or the third. But the main girl from the first one, she like survives the whole movie. Nobody else does. But to keep herself safe, and they cut to like the second or third movie. She's committed herself to like an asylum, and so they put her in this padded room where she doesn't have access to anything, and there's nothing in the room. So it's like that way, so that nothing can get her accidentally. And she's just like, "This is my life now. Like I just live here." And it's like, is that better? Like I don't know. That seems pretty depressing.
Yeah.
not worth.
Just so goofy. Then the last scene, I mean, the ending scene of I don't remember which one it is, but the grill. I don't know if you remember that one, Melody.
Oh, yeah.
It's so iconic. Uh, Hang on, I just want to send it to Riley if she hasn't seen
Yeah.
it before.
I
It's a
gotta
good one
know.
to see.
Oh my God, 2003. It's just so goofy, but I think about it like once a week. Oh, it's so good though. Uh,
That's
I never
crazy.
noticed either. I didn't realize how far away the grill. It's just out in the field so that they can blow it up.
It's like not even like on a patio or anything. Just in the
No.
grass.
It's like, well, we don't have CGI to blow this up fake. So we're gonna blow it up for real 100 feet away.
That's like we were watching this like another 80s zombie movie, and they like burnt a house for the effects, but then the characters were like looking back at the house like for a long time. And it's like, me and Tito were like, let's stop and look at this because we set this thing on fire and we have to use the film. Because that's like all like there's no other reason.
They were such bad movies, but I just think about them constantly. I don't know what about them. It just like gets in your brain, but
I feel like it's that unique premise. Cause it is a unique premise, like the idea of like if you escape death once, it's just gonna keep coming after you.
yeah.
It's quite funny. Yeah, I
Now I'm
feel
just kind of thinking about like franchises. But I mean, I don't know if there's really a franchise that I really like too much.
yeah, I definitely like go to DBD to like look at like the classic like slasher ones, you know what I mean? Like looking at all the killers and stuff. But
Yeah.
because like Saw's another one that has like a million that I feel like they're all bad though. Like I wouldn't even I feel like the first one also sucks.
Yeah, like oh my god. I remember when they came out, it was we were pretty young, but I remember when it was like they were already on the sixth one and we were pretty young. And I was like, huh? There's six of them? And I remember thinking I was like in middle school or some shit. I was like, there's that many of them? And then there's like now, oh, I don't know how many there is now because they have like the spin-off ones. I saw one of them. I think there's two, but I saw Spiral, I think. Uh and it was okay. Like it started off pretty like promising and then it was just like it was just the same.
I think the first one was just so big that they were like, we've got to capitalize on this. And I think
Mm.
they like made one like every year or every other year for like several, oh my God, not even. Yeah, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2000, literally every single year
Oh
up
my
to
god.
2010.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
that sounds right.
That's wild. And then they just stop.
I know. I feel like watching it back, I remember the like iconic thing of like the early 2000s was like this, especially for like edgy movies, was like the super fast like cuts. Like they would I don't remember if they're cutting between scenes or if they're just like going back and forth between angles, but Saw has so many of those where it's like pshoo, 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 and it's like it's so cheesy going back. Like at the time I think it was cool. It was like, whoa, yeah, cool. And it's just like this is the cheesiest thing.
Yeah. You know what movie I don't think was very good, but for some reason I thought it was really it was really scary. Maybe it's because of like so based off of like well, it was supposed to be based off of like home invasions, but it was like pretty loosely based off of anything like that. It was the first Strangers movie. I thought that one was kind of scary. And then I watched it again. I was just like, nah, this kind of sucks. But like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is I would be scared too. And now they're just like remaking it, I think completely. Like they're just pretending like that first one didn't even happen and they're trying to like make it all over again.
I don't know if I saw that one.
Yeah, it's just like three masked people just do a home invasion and is there's not really any reason. They just show up and they just want to murder people. So um but I don't know, like realistically, I just after the fact, after I was watching, I was like thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, how often does that really happen? Though? I mean, like, no one's really gonna go out of their way and be like, oh yeah, like the days of the serial killers aren't really here anymore because they're typically caught before they get to the fucking high numbers that they used to get to. Like the serial killers back in the 70s, where it was just like all of them were just like getting to like the 30s and shit because no one could fucking figure out who it was. There weren't cameras everywhere, but now it's like everyone has a
True.
camera in their pocket. So it's like if they see some shady person walking around doing suspicious things, they're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, this person, they seem fine. They're a little weird. They don't talk very much, They have a knife on them. And I think nowadays people be like, they'll take their phone out to be like, who are you? Why do you have this? Like,
True.
why do you have blood on yourself? Like, you know what I mean? So I
True.
feel like it's so hard for people to. It would be so hard for someone to carry that kind of shit out now today. So, yeah,
Yeah, I do think that the supernatural ones are like more scary because of that, maybe. Because yeah, it's like easier to, I don't know. Somehow it's easier to believe supernatural shit than it is to believe some random mass killer is gonna get you.
yeah. Like the Conjuring 2, in that whole Conjuring world, they like made that nun character, Valak. Oh, God, I just it's the look of it is the way they designed it is very scary to me. So and also because I used to go to a Catholic school when I was little, and they didn't wear the habits, but they only did when like once in a while for like certain events. And I remember being young and thinking that's kind of, I don't know why they wear that. That's scary to me. And so like as an adult when I watched that movie and I saw the nun and I was like, "Oh my god. Take me away. This is terrifying."
Isn't there a scary movie that's just called The Nun?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that one's Garbo.
Okay, that's kind of the vibe I got, but I thought maybe that would be good too.
Yeah, I think they decided to do a spin-off because the Conjuring films were doing very well, so they started like kind of expanding their universe and trying to find ways that they can give the specific uh like ghosts and demons their own movies. Like the Annabelle movies, like I think that was like a spin-off.
Hmm. Of The Conjuring?
I think
Oh wow.
so. Oh no, actually. Well, I think from the same people who made the Conjuring movies.
Hmm.
And then they like kind of branched off. They're like, "Oh, let's make one about Annabelle." And yeah.
Oh
I think
yeah.
the actual doll that it's based off of is scarier than the actual doll that they put in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, I'll find a picture of it.
Yeah, I did like The Conjuring. I don't know if I saw two, but I think I might have. But I liked one. I feel like that was a really good classic. It wasn't like amazing, but I feel like that's a like very reasonable Halloween movie to watch. And like The Exorcist too, both very like middle ground.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a Raggedy Ann?
Yep.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah. I mean, I never liked them. They did kind of freak me out, but I think a puppet, because Annabelle movie kind of looks more puppetish.
Hmm.
Why? Who? Yeah, who made this doll? And was just like, kids love this scary, weird face. That's
I feel
weird.
like it's in the same vein of like we talked about it before, I think. Or maybe I don't know, maybe we didn't. No, I think we did talk about it before. The Elf on the Shelf, right? We did talk about that before on
That
here.
sounds
I think
right.
so.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
have many dolls when I was a kid, so maybe that's why. But also my mom did have these like weird porcelain dolls that
Hmm.
they got rid of it after a while. But I was just like when I first saw them, I was like, "Mom, why do we have these?
Was it like
Get rid of them."
the precious moments? Those
I don't know.
ones?
I just know that they were like in boxes and they stare at you, and then like it was the ones where like their eyes like if you have them upright, then their eyes open, and if you lay
Oh,
them down, then their eyes
Ooh.
close.
I
Yeah,
hate that.
you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
add that extra layer, like you're giving them eyelids, like why? Why give them eyelids?
Not a fan.
Yeah, the only spooky book I've ever read, because I don't read that much, was The Ring, and I have seen that movie too. And I think those are
Yeah.
both good. I feel like I might have said this before. I was really surprised reading The Ring. I feel like there was more like details to the story. There were like minor details, but were like kind of more interesting or fun that like reinforce the whole, because it's the whole videotape 7 days thing.
Yeah.
And like there was one detail about like Sadako was supposed to be like the last, I think it was like smallpox, like the last smallpox victim in maybe just in Japan, but maybe in the world, I can't remember. But it like tied into the whole virus aspect, like that the videotape was like her demonic energy and it was like a virus that was like meant to infect people.
Hmm.
Um and I don't remember if the movie did this, but the ending scene was like the guy, his parents-in-law were Wait, no. It was that his like child and it was like his wife and child were infected, and he would have to pass it on to save them, and he had already saved himself on accident. And he was like, I could let it end right here because he was the only person infected, his daughter and like wife, and he could kill out the virus. It would never kill anyone else, or he could save them and infect his like parents-in-law. And I can't remember if they like say what he's gonna do, but he's like basically like driving towards his parents-in-law with like an extra. He's like running at the last minute. He's like got an extra VHS or a VHS player, and I just like thought that was a really cool like. I don't know. I just feel like that was a good. It was a good story, and I think the book is like even better than the movie. But either both are cool.
I haven't. I actually, it's funny. I found the book, The Ring, at like one of those little free libraries, like the boxes that people have. I found it once too, and I almost took it, but I've never actually read it. But that was actually the first horror movie I ever saw. I was way too young to see it, but my cousins put it on, and I don't remember. I actually don't remember being scared, but I must have been. Like that would freak me out now, I think.
I've never seen it.
I feel like it's partially more psychological. I mean, the girl in the well thing is a little freaky, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's very good. I've never seen that. There's an American version, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think so.
I think that's the one I probably saw.
Okay,
Think-
yeah. I guess maybe I haven't seen the Ring America version. That might be even scarier, actually.
Huh?
I think I've heard that the non-American one is scarier because we just like lifted the like a lot of the ideas directly. Like I don't think we really did anything new with it.
Oh, you know what? I'm getting confused, but I haven't seen either. Is The Grudge? I think I was thinking of The Grudge, but I haven't seen that one either.
I
But
know
I
what.
think that also originated in Japan too.
Yeah, I don't get what the difference is. I just Googled that one the other day because I was like, wait, what is The Grudge? And it sounds the same.
Maybe because it's like a girl with the long hair too. That's why
Yeah.
I think I was getting confused.
The Grudge is just a ghost.
Mm.
I guess she doesn't come out of a TV, yeah, probably. But
Oh,
it's a
okay.
curse,
Yeah.
and it is passed on like a virus.
Mm.
So I think it's a ripoff, but it's apparently based on a different book. No, a different. Wait, the American one is a remake of the Japanese one. I don't know.
I love seeing like director and producers lists of their their credits and stuff. I just was curious. I was clicking through because apparently Sam Raimi did The Grudge,
Hmm.
and he does like tons of horror movies in order, and then all of a sudden it's just the 2000 Spider-Mans,
Yeah.
and everything else lightens up substantially after that. He gets a lot more chill.
He's done being scared.
Yeah, a lot of just all superheroes.
I feel like it makes me think of I think James Wan because he made like some of the Fast and Furious movies, and then he made like the Conjuring movies. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's him. Oh no, I'm thinking of. Oh, he wrote Saw.
That's crazy.
Okay, so he was one of the writers on the original Saw. He directed at least one of the Fast and Furious movies. He produced and directed. He directed the first Insidious movie, and then produced a couple of the Conjuring movies. Well, I guess that's all of them. But is that weird? Like Fast and Furious, and then just horror movies.
That is strange.
Oh wow, yeah. It looks like he's a producer on a bunch of these the Conjuring universe movies and the Saw movies.
This is a total sidetrack, but I was on Facebook Marketplace because I was like, I definitely got like a cursed thing pretty recently, and I was curious to see if it would pop up again if I went back in there to look. Instead, I got something entirely different.
What? Excuse me?
It's $10.
So- okay.
You don't want an infant pierogi costume for your baby? It's only been worn once.
Worn once. I like the
Like the description makes sense, but it's just funny reading it,
unique and quite cute. Cause like presumably you're the one who made it. Like,
right?
this costume is
Yeah.
unique and quite cute, if I do say so myself.
My baby was adorable as a pierogi, thank you.
Homemade infant pierogi costume shows face on front side, large opening in back for fit.
And it's like clearly just some fabric. Like that would not be hard to make yourself. Probably not
Also,
even worth
like,
$10.
it also doesn't immediately look like a pierogi. Like, if I saw a baby in that, I would just assume it was being swaddled.
Yeah. Or if you
Yeah.
looked closely, like maybe empanada. Like I don't know, because a pierogi is just a. There's so many things folded in a tan colored, you know what I mean? That shape. I don't know how you would assume there's potatoes in there.
Yeah. At a quick glance, it just looks like a ripped piece of fabric, to be honest.
It does.
You don't see the meticulous folds on the edges.
Now that I'm looking at it, but when I first glanced at it, I was like, "The fuck is that?"
A pillowcase or something, yeah.
And then just a rip, like someone just made a rip. Like, here's the head hole.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we actually filled up our time with the majority of it just talking about horror content, movies and books. So,
Nice.
is there anything else that you guys want to talk about or any other recommendations you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Nope.
No? Good.
I don't think so.
Alrighty, well then I hope everyone has a good Halloween and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.